Hello, everyone. I'm Blaise Liffick, Director of Operations for Silent Witness Peacekeepers Alliance, and this is a safety update for our festivals that we're covering this year, particularly for Lititz and Harrisburg. So let me share my screen and get it all started. So we certainly wish that we didn't have to cover some of this material, but as the years have gone by, it's become more obvious that we need to be a little more proactive about thinking of emergency issues that we may need to address. So the first thing to keep in mind is here's what we're really trying to do while we're on the line. And that's we're watching for anybody who is accosting patrons going into or out of the event. And it doesn't really matter who they are or who they represent. Anybody who is approaching people who are coming into or out of the event in a way that clearly aggravates those people is something that we need to be aware of, and something that we will react to. They may also be antagonizing the vendors, particularly in Harrisburg, where vendors tend to have booths that come right up against the line of the border of the event. And so the protesters may have just a few feet between them and the vendors and are able to harass the vendors and cause them grief. And finally, and perhaps most importantly in some respects, is we're watching for any of the protesters who may manage to get inside the event itself, mainly because these events are free and basically open to the public. Now, in Lititz, the park itself is private space. It's a privately owned park owned by the Moravian Church. And therefore, there's a set of rules there that does not apply to other events that are on public space, such as the Harrisburg Pride Fest. But regardless, should any of the protesters manage to get inside the event, we're going to want to follow and make sure that they don't interfere with people in the event, especially the vendors. So if you see someone at the event you don't think belongs there, the first thing is don't engage them. You're not directly responsible for anything that they are doing. We are going to make sure that we make the people who are running the festival aware of what's going on. And they're the ones who are going to be responsible for actually dealing with them directly. Don't follow somebody by yourself. Make sure that you've got at least one other person with you, and hopefully can find one of the directors or a captain to make them aware that what you're doing is following somebody you think may not really belong inside the festival. We will in fact contact event security, and they will be the ones who, along with board members of the event, who will take any action they deem necessary, including possibly ejecting them from the event. As you follow along, though, you're going to try and keep everybody else away from them and smile and wave at everybody else and make sure that they understand that you've got this under control and that people don't need to worry about the fact that these people have inadvertently, in some respects, gotten into the event. If they're really antagonizing people and it looks like it's going to come to blows, that of course is a time to blow your whistle, which means more peacekeepers will show up. It also means security will show up for sure, and any board members who may be in the neighborhood. Now, there's a lot of weather events that we need to take into account, and the obvious one is extreme heat. We're in a heat wave right now, and it's expected for that to extend at least through the Lititz Pride event. We have certainly had days at the Harrisburg Pride event that were topping 100 degrees. So heat stroke or heat exhaustion is a source of concern. First of all, take care of yourself. Hydrate, take frequent breaks as necessary, and stay in the shade as much as possible. And encourage others to do so as well. We have a booth at the events that we participate in, and we always have cold water at those booths. So there's no reason to go without water. Secondly, we have had a windstorm go through the event on occasion. The umbrellas that we use are specially designed to be wind resistant. They're not windproof, which basically means, you know what, when a big wind comes up and it's sustained for more than a second or two, close your umbrellas, because the umbrellas become a liability at that point, and you don't want them to become a hazard. So close them up, wrap them tight, and then help vendors in particular batten down the hatches, because things are going to start blowing around. And it's perfectly all right for you to be involved in trying to help settle things a bit till the wind dies down. Now, if it's a storm of some kind, and of course it may be preceding a rainstorm of some kind, then obviously help people find shelter as well. Be aware that not all vendors have weights on their tents, their canopies, and that the canopies themselves may begin blowing around, and that becomes really dangerous. So just be aware and help them, prevent catastrophes along those lines. If there's a medical emergency, both the festivals that we're talking about today have EMTs on staff. Harrisburg actually has an ambulance on premises as well, but an ambulance is on call at Lititz. And basically, if someone's injured, blow your whistle. If someone is down from heat exhaustion, blow your whistle, get some extra help, and then do what you can to help the person feel more comfortable. Now, this is the part I really wish we didn't have to talk about, but the potential for violence is always there. The one that we mostly are protecting against are fights. If we do our job right, there should not be any opportunities for fights. However, there are always people who will do whatever they can to get around us. At last year's, or a couple of years ago at Harrisburg Pride Fest, a young man managed to get around behind us, snuck around behind us, and dumped a bag of flour on top of one of the street preachers. While he undoubtedly saw that as a prank, something he probably saw on TikTok or something, that is assault, and he was in fact arrested. It could have been criminal assault. I think it was recorded as a misdemeanor assault. However, had anybody actually been injured, it would have been criminal assault, and that would have been a felony. And there is no reason for those things to happen. Now, like I say, if somebody's really determined, these things are going to happen. We can't prevent everything. However, if it looks like a fight is imminent, or if obviously somebody grabs one of the protesters or grabs one of their signs, we are in fact going to blow our whistles and get security involved. Security will decide whether or not the police get involved. Now, we would really rather the police never be involved. And ultimately, if we do our jobs well, that is what happens. But as I mentioned, the event of a couple of years ago at Harrisburg's Pride Fest, the young man committed a crime, and we were not in any position to prevent the police from actually arresting him. Not that we would try and prevent that. It's not our job. The young man chose his actions. He had to suffer the consequences. I know dealing with the police is not anybody's favorite thing to do, or even want to have to deal with them in any way, shape, or form. That's why it's usually myself or Alana as executive director who take on that task. Anyway, if it looks like something is going to come to blows, do what you can if you feel safe doing so. We've taught you how to intervene, and that is, generally effective. As soon as you get in between people and get somebody to back up, it usually diffuses the problem pretty quickly. If Alana or I are not around in the neighborhood with our cameras, it's perfectly fine for one of you to pull out a camera and start videoing what's going on. Vehicular attacks. This is a little more of a concern at Lititz than it is Harrisburg, simply because the Lititz event is right along a busy road, in particular on the east side, along Route 501, and on the west side there's a road that runs along up past the high school that is fairly heavily traveled as well. Now, there are two possibilities. If it's not, obviously it could be an accident, particularly in Lititz along 501. There have been a lot of close calls of people trying to cross the street or stepping out in the street to avoid the protesters in particular. And anytime I'm along that sidewalk part of Lititz Festival, I am trying to pay close attention to the traffic and guiding people away from stepping out into the road. Warning them that that's not safe to do. Or on occasion, I have actually stopped cars. Again, don't do that if you don't feel safe. However, there's also the possibility that it will be intentional, as has happened at a variety of events across the country, not necessarily Pride events. That being said, you know what? You're not going to be able to anticipate it. You're not going to be able to prevent it. So about the best you can do is, if something happens where there is a collision between people and cars, blow your whistles and close your umbrella as quickly as possible. Contact security or available police. Send for the EMTs. Do not approach the driver unless it's really clear that this was unintentional. And try and keep the crowd back. And if you're able to, assist any victims. We're going to try and take a fairly common sense approach to this. But I think the key one is, don't approach the driver if you think at all that it was intentional. I think the most likely disruption of any of these events is probably going to come in the form of a bomb threat, because it's easy to do and easy to do anonymously. Most of you are probably aware of what happened at a drag queen story hour in Lancaster last spring, that the event was shut down entirely. In fact, within a 3-block radius, of the library was closed down for an extended period of time because of what the police took as a credible bomb threat. Whether or not that was truly the case is a whole different discussion. Bomb threats are not going to be identified by us or probably even by the board members. If we have any suspicions about a package or anything else, we're going to bring that to the attention of the security staff who will be there. And then they will take it from there, escalate it as necessary. At some point, someone in authority, and to me, that means the police, may decide that there is a credible bomb threat and that the park needs to be evacuated. If that happens, I'm not saying there's any kind of high probability of this, but it's a non-zero probability. If this happens, here are the steps I want you to take. Close your umbrella, but hang on to it. And the only reason I say hang on to it is it's useful for directing people by pointing. So just wrap it all up tight so that it's secure and hang on to it. The police, by that point, and or security should be directing things. They should be telling people you must leave. If you feel like you can do so safely, help direct people to a safe place. And I'll tell you where that's going to be for the two festivals in just a minute. And finally, because we're going to be spread out pretty significantly in the park from one end to the other, in Lititz in particular, but also in Harrisburg, when you get to a safe place, a safe haven, if you will, you need to let Alana and I in particular know that you are in fact safe. And I'll make sure that you have our phone numbers to be able to do that, if nothing else. Now, we've designated some safe places, both in Lititz and Harrisburg, as rendezvous points. These are subject to change depending upon the directions of the police. But for right now, what we are anticipating is that in Lititz, if you're on the west end, that's the high end by the high school. The high school itself is your safe haven. On the east end, that's the end in town along Route 501. It's Moravian Church, which is a couple of blocks away. It's a little bit of a hike, but it's a big space, and it's well out of the any place that might be considered a zone of concern. In Harrisburg, we're designating the front of the State Museum. That's the part along 3rd Street. I think that my anticipation at this point is that that's going to be far enough away from the festival itself that it'll be considered safe enough. Again, though, that is subject to change depending upon the directions of any police involved. And finally, we do have to talk about the potential for an active shooter. Again, something we really wish we didn't have to do. But in fact, a number of events have had problems of this sort, and we have to talk about it. So this is pretty similar to what happens in a bomb threat, but there's a little more to it. And in particular, your first job is to take cover. Get behind something you feel confident will shield you from the shooter. Now, if it's a stationary shooter who's, up in a building somewhere, firing down on the park, that may be an easier scenario than if there's somebody wandering through the park shooting. Regardless, if you think you can safely take cover, do so. Then I want you to drop your umbrella. Close it up, drop it. Don't carry it at all. And remove your vest because the vest makes you a target. And my first responsibility, our first responsibility is for you to be safe. Obviously, once again, follow police or security directives. And we're going to, once again, try and use the safe zones as a rendezvous point so that you can check in, have time to check in, and let the directors know that you're safe. And just as in the bomb threat scenario, in Lititz, the safe zones are at the high school and at Moravian Church, and in Harrisburg in front of the State Museum. Again, all subject to change the day of the event if directed by those in authority. So add our phone numbers to your contacts in your phone so that you can, in fact, drop us a message if you get separated from us, so that we can account for everyone and make sure everyone is safe. And that's just how we're going to do it. So that's it for the update. I hope I hope we all have a safe and peaceful time at the festivals that we're doing this summer. We are certainly doing our best to set things up so that they are safe and peaceful. If you have any questions, go ahead and use those phone numbers to contact us or drop us an email. You can send emails to swpeacekeepers@gmail.com. That's swpeacekeepers@gmail.com. And look forward to seeing you soon.